Okay, so let's get started. So I want to say welcome to those who've just joined us on today's Quick Learn. So today we're going to be covering how to utilize the global changes option in the software. And today we're only covering the customers and the suppliers on today's session. So this is what the agenda is going to look like. So we're going to start by introducing the global changes option as a whole. I will then demonstrate the option focusing primarily on customers, which can then be applied to your suppliers. So I'm not going to go through the same steps twice because the same steps are going to be applied to your suppliers as well. Then at the end of the demonstration, I will come back to my slides to summarize the session and also briefly talk about upcoming webinars. So please do keep your questions coming throughout the session so either me or Michael can pick these up. But let's get started with the introduction. So sometimes you may want to make changes to records. So the global changes option allows you to change information for multiple records across a range of areas within the software. So this is including your customers, your suppliers and products, but it's in one centralized wizard, which you can see as per my example on the right hand side there. So this global changes option is available on all variants, and the variants I'm talking about is essentials, standard and professional. So what can be changed? So for all for all variants, it's going to be your turnover, your credit limits, product sales and purchase prices. And then that's for if you're on essentials. Additionally, for standard and professional, you will also be able to change the reorder levels and discounts as well. So as I mentioned earlier at the start, depending on your variant, your options within the list of the global changes option may differ. So what we'll do now is we'll pop straight into the software and we'll get a look on how this is going to look in the software and what you need to be doing. So let me just swap over to my software. Okay, so where you're going to find the wizard to start with is if you go to Tools along the top, and you've got the Global Changes option here. If you can't see the Global Changes option, it may be down to your access rights. So maybe that you don't have the permissions within the software for your particular user to be able to see that option. Now to see that, to change that rather, you would just go into settings, logged in as a manager or administrator. You would go down to user management and you will go into users. So maybe someone else that has these permissions as a manager or as an administrator to be able to look into these for you. So I'm logged in as manager at the moment, but let's just say Tom can't see this if they're logged in as themselves. So all they would do is they would edit that user. You go into level of access. If you've got select all and all of them selected, then you should be able to see it. But if your user is partial and you don't have that particular option ticked. So if we pop down to the tools menu, and you can see global changes isn't ticked. So you need to make sure that option is ticked to be able to see the global changes option. All you do is tick it, finish, and save. And then that would give you access to this area of the program. Before you do any global changes, you're going to want to be taking a backup. And the reason for this is if you accidentally change a record you weren't supposed to change, or a couple of records that you weren't supposed to, it's not reversible. So always make sure you take a backup beforehand. I've already taken a backup before we start this session, but make sure that you do take one. One thing I want to show you that's really useful in this area of the software as well throughout the program is the option for help. Now in version 29, it specifically picks the relevant areas for your software. So if you're in the global changes, it's going to show you articles for the global changes option. If you're in version 28 or below, I believe you should have just a green question mark. And if you click on that green question mark, it should open the global changes wizard article for you. Now, I'm not going to go through and use this article today, but just to make you aware, it is a very useful article as it does explain in detail some of the options that you get throughout this area. And also as well, again, as you can see, it is telling you to take a backup. I'm just going to close this down. And we're going to start with the credit limit. So we're going to go into customer credit limits. So as you can see, as per my screenshot, you can see at the minute I'm on professional, so I can see all the other options. But if you are on essentials, you are going to see less options within this list. So I'm going to choose credit limits and I'm going to click next. So as you can see, it's given me my full customer list. So I can go through, I can click swap. So it selects all of them. It might be you want to select all of them, but you just want to take a couple out. So you can just click the ones that you don't want. Or if you press clear and you just want to click a couple, you just click the relevant ones you want to click. So I'm going to select these three and I'm going to click next. So at the start, you've got your type of change. So the article, as I showed you earlier, that does go through each of these options and it explains to you what each of them mean. Also, depending on what option you select from this list, will depend on what you have access to after it. So just for today's example, for this particular credit limit one, I'm going to increase my credit limits by a percentage. And I want to increase them by 15%. So I'd enter 15 in there and it knows it's a percentage. You can choose whether you want to round it up to, nearest, or round down to. You can also choose whether it's to the decimal place of 0, 1, or 2. And you've also got multiples of instead if you don't want to use decimal places. So I'm just going to keep mine as 2. Once you're happy with what you've entered into this area, you click next. It now gives me a review of what I've entered. So what it does is it gives me the existing value, so what it is currently. And then it gives me the new value with the increased percentage by 15%. You can print this, but what it will do is it will print this little area here, or you can send it into Excel. I'm just going to send it into Excel today and I'll show you what that looks like. But all it does is it literally takes this information here in this box and pushes it into Excel. So if I click post, these changes cannot be reversed. Are you sure you want to continue? So this is why we want you to do a backup beforehand. You click yes. And as you can see, it's pushed it into Excel for us, exactly how you've seen it on the screen before. So you've got the account reference, the name, the existing value, and the new value. And if you can save that, you can save that as you would any other Excel document if you wanted to as well. I'm just going to close that down. I'm not going to save it. And that is how you would use the global changes feature for your credit limits. And it's pretty much the same for any of the other features that you choose within that option. What I do want to show you is what you can also do instead of having your long list of customers. You can actually filter them as well, but you need to filter them before you go into global changes. So if we pop into customers, and let's just say I want to filter my customers by, let's just say I've got a customer analysis fields. So let's just say if I could pop into one of my customers. So if you pop it into defaults, and as you can see, I've got custom fields in here. So we do have a full session on custom analysis fields. We do also have another quick learn on how to filter by customer analysis fields as well. So these can be changed within your settings and then configuration, and you can apply whatever you want to put in here that you want to be able to filter by. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a filter. So I'm going to go to filter along the top. I'm going to filter by where. and I want to filter by region. And I want it to be equal to, and I'm going to put Scotland. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show me if I just apply the column header as well. So all I did there was right click along this blue bar, right to the bottom where I can see region, and it shows me my region in here. So if I only wanted to show this customer, these customers with this region, I can then go back to tools, back into global changes. This time I'm just going to go to customer turnover, and it now only shows me those customers within that filter. And then you can select whether you want to select them all. You can click swap, or you can select them individually. So for example, Fred Bryan, and let's go for landscape design. So if I click next. So this time, let's just say if I go for give figure, you can now see value has changed, so it's no longer got the percentage sign at the end, and I would just put a particular value in there that I want it to change to. And you can see I no longer have the option to rounding direction, decimal places, or for multiples of. So yeah, it really depends on what you pick within this list, what options it's going to give you after that. So once we click next, so sorry, if we go back and we just put we leave it as 0, and then you can see now we've got the account reference, account name, the existing value is 35, and my new value is 0. So I wanted to reset it to 0, and then the same, it was at 2000, and now I want to reset that customer turnover to 0. And then again, you would just click, you don't have to, it's optional, whether you want to print it or send it to Excel. Okay, so that is the global changes option for the credit limits and the turnover for your customers. And again, as I've mentioned, it would be exactly the same for suppliers. You would just choose your supplier credit limit or your supplier turnover instead. The options are exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop back to my slides to summarize the session. Just before I move on to the summary, I just want a reminder, we haven't had any questions as of yet, so do pop them in the questions panel down the right hand side. If you do have any, you can do that by clicking on the little speech bubble with the question mark in the middle. Okay. So just to summarize the session, this option is available in all variants. You can amend credit limits and turnover. So it does allow you to change multiple records in one go on all variants, but specifically for our essential users who don't have access to the batch changes option, this allows you to change credit limits without having to do that to upgrade to the higher licenses. So that option is there for you. Allows you to apply, amend multiple records and apply filters to those records before using the global changes option. And also as well, being able to amend turnover, which this option is not available on the batch changes option either. So there is a way to do that in using the global changes option. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to the upcoming webinars that we've got over the next couple of weeks. So tomorrow afternoon, we've got Business Dashboard with Michael. So that's talking about the Business Dashboard and how it's a great feature and how it's going to give you an overview of your data at a glance. And on Thursday morning, we've got the improved bank feeds for version 29.2. So it might be that you're just upgrading to that, or you haven't upgraded to that version as of yet. You can pop onto our session, and we mainly cover the improved bank feeds features, but we do briefly talk about other features as well. We've also got coming up over the next couple of weeks, so we've got personalized invoice layouts, running reports to reconcile VAT. We've got the next one in this part of the two-part series. We've got the global changes again, but next week we're going to be focusing on the product side of things. And we've also got nominal links. So if you are a payroll user as well, we do have Michael and Duncan on next week for the nominal link, where they're going to be talking about the payroll, pushing the payroll into the 50 accounts software. Okay. So that does bring us to the end of today's session. So please feel free to stay around if you do have any last minute questions you want to get into us. If you've got what you need to do and you want to leave the session, you will receive an email in around an hour or so with links to both our webinar schedule and today's recorded session for you to refer back to if needs be. Upon exiting the session, you will see a survey at the end. So if you could please let us know any feedback regarding the session and any part of the software that you think you might have some feedback on, do pop that into there as well. So what I'm going to do now is just another minute or so. I'm just going to pop myself on mute just to see if any questions are going to come through for us. Okay, so we haven't got any other questions coming through there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to wrap this session up. I want to say thank you to Michael, who's been on hand today, and thank you to all of you for your participation. Just a reminder, we've got plenty of sessions over the next couple of weeks, so don't be shy and get registered. So I want to say another thank you and take care.